Welcome back to What Arty Noobs with General Disturbance. This is the KV-220-2. It's a Tier 5 Soviet premium heavy tank. It's located on the south spawn of Murovanka and it's under the command of Wazwulf. Now, he likes this tank and I can understand why. It's one of those tanks that kind of grows on you because it's got a Tier 7 hull with a Tier 5 turret. And it's also preferential matchmaking, which means that you only get to see Tier 5 and Tier 6. Now it's a 76mm gun capable of doing 110 alpha, and it'll penetrate through 99mm with the standard gun. It's the standard gun's the F32, and it'll also do 121mm with the APCR. Now, in fact, actually, the story of the KV-220-2 actually involves the KV-3 as well, and the T-150. And, well, it's quite a complicated story because after the end of the Winter War, the Soviets actually decided that they needed something a bit tougher with heavier armour than the KV-1. The KV-1 was a very good tank, but it only had 75mm of armour on the front of its hull. Well, they wanted to see if they could increase the armour to 90mm, and they decided to make another tank which could add 100mm of armour. And the 90mm armed, or the 90mm armoured tank became known as the T-150, and that got the 76mm gun. But the KV-220, oh, he just shot his teammate in the back of the turret there, just missed out on his high caliber. Yeah, the KV-220 ended up with an 85mm gun and 100mm of armour, and that meant it was very, very heavy, 70 tons minimum weight, and that meant the engine got overstressed and it kept breaking the engine. So yeah, they had a lot of problems trying to get this thing to work. It's very resistant to any enemy shots because it is basically a Tier 7 hull in a Tier 5 game. This is Tier 5, Tier 4 tanks in it. So he's top tier and he's just, well, able to resist most of the rounds that are thrown at him. Okay, he's getting damage on that Panzer Selbstfahrerfette 1C. And now we're looking at a Birch gun who's just going to get absolutely slaughtered. Yeah, there he goes. Now, they only made two prototypes of each type, the T-150 and the KV-220. And for the KV-220, they armed it with the 85mm, as I said. And there's his first kill of the game, the Stug 3B. Now, the 85mm gun, it might be familiar to you because it's the F30 gun. And they actually tested that on the T-28E. So whenever you see that premium tank, it's the same gun that they actually put onto this tank. But in the game, Wargaming have only given you the 76mm to play with, which is a bit unfair because that's the gun that was really armed on the T-150. And it's the T-150 that gets the 85mm gun, or the 107mm gun, which is eventually the one they actually put onto the KV-3. I suppose they didn't want players to be entering a Tier 5 game with not only 100mm of armour on the front of their hull, in fact this thing has 120mm on the front of the armour, but also having an 85mm gun capable of doing about 160 or 180 alpha. Now, it's got extremely strong armour for Tier 5. It's very good at side scraping. It's a fairly rare tank. I'd say they used to say it was a rare tank, but virtually everyone seems to have one now, because they managed to get it in the Christmas loot boxes. It has a large health pool as well of 900 hit points, and that's a lot at Tier 5. It's got fairly good gun depression, 8 degrees. That's almost unheard of in a KV. Standard reload time is 4.11 seconds. And you can see here the reload time that Wazwulf got 3.62. Oh, he's tearing that Churchill 3 to shreds. There's only one enemy left. It's the Panzer Selbstfahrerfährte 1C who ran away. And here he is. This game's going to be over momentarily. Yeah, that guy's just not going to be able to stand up to this. Ram kill. And with that kill, he got 20% of the enemy hit pool. But I don't think he's going to be getting that high caliber. Oh dear. Here's the end of battle stats, and that was the first class tanker for Wazwulf in the KV-220-2. It's not an ace. Well, it's very difficult to get an ace in this tank because so many people have them nowadays that they take them out and they basically, it's seal clubbing time when you've got one of these because you just roll over the enemy. He managed to get a spotter badge for spotting at least 1,000 hit points of damage, a bruiser medal for getting at least 5 critical hits, he got 7, duelist for taking down 2 tanks who damaged him, a fight for effect for doing more damage than the hit points for his own vehicle, and a shell proof for blocking more damage than the hit points for his own vehicle. He got a cool headed for surviving 10 or more ricochets and non-penetrations in a row, a patrol duty for spotting at least 6 tanks and being the only one spotting them when they were hit, a Confederate for hitting more of the enemy than anyone else on his team, and a Steel Wolf for blocking the most damage on the game, at least 11 hits over 1,000 hit points, but no high caliber. Yeah, that friendly tank who drove in front of him just as he fired and the round hit the back of his turret disqualified him from getting a high caliber medal. So let's have a look at team score. He easily would have got the high caliber in this game. Look at that, 1,990. He definitely got the top. The next highest scorer was the Excelsior, 1,372, and the third highest was the Matilda on the enemy team with 1,061. So yeah, Wazwulf was robbed by the teammate who drove in front of him. Not very nice. I think we might try to find out who that culprit was, but I think it was one of his teammates, possibly the Excelsior. Not sure, but it might have been him. He actually did get a Top Gun and got the 6 kills. Wazwulf only got 2, but he was doing damage instead, and 2 kills went to the Matilda on the enemy team. And when it came to base XP, it's Wazwulf up top with 1,521. 1,015 went to the Excelsior, and the next high score after that was the Matilda with only 448. Very low indeed. Yeah, so I think this was the guy might have denied him the high caliber. We'll actually check that. We'll make sure that who it is. When it came to getting the ace tanker, well, 1,521. Yeah, he says when 1521 experience is only a first class. Exactly. But the problem is because Wargaming did put this in the loot boxes. I think it was not this Christmas, but the one before. And so virtually everyone who bought loot boxes got a KV-220. And now it's one of those not so rare tanks that virtually everybody has, but not everybody plays. But those who do play it well. He fired 35 rounds in that game. Got 24 direct hits and 17 penetrations on the enemy. 1,990 hit points of damage, all of it done at close range. 38 hits received from the enemy. Yes, 38 hits, but only 6 of them actually penetrated him. 32 non-penetrations and 1 hit by way of splash damage, with 1,985 hit points of damage blocked by armor. He spotted 3 enemy vehicles, damaged 8 of the enemy, killed 2, and did 1,500 hit points of spotting assist. He earned 48,856 credits on a premium count, 21,985 from battle payments, total of 95,269 altogether, and after repair and ammunition resupply, and remember the rounds are 76mm rounds, they're very cheap, but he did buy some premium. He ended up with 53,533 credits profit from the game. So yeah, he did make a profit even though he fired a premium. But the thing is that this tank really should have the 85mm gun. 1,521 XP times 2 for the first victory. 913 for this being a premium vehicle you actually have to buy. So they give you extra XP because of that, and 5,477 experience points altogether. So as usual, as per our new scheme, we actually give you the some more information on the tanks, which I think some people tend to like. Yep, This is actually a lengthened KV-1, the KV-220. It's got an extra roller and return roller actually on top. You can see there's 4 in there now instead of just 3 on the standard KV-1. Standard KV-1 has 75mm at the front on the armour, whereas this one has actually in the model, they've got here, well, it's effective armour 130 there, but it's actually 120 because that's slightly angled, so it gives you slightly more. You can see there's virtually nowhere on the front of this tank that you can pen it if you've got a tier 4 or tier 5 tank. It's virtually impregnable from the front, but if you turn the turret side on, you can see the armour drops to about 80-90mm, and that's angled. If you get it side on, it drops to 75, so very easy to hit the turret. And that's the place you've actually got to aim for if you want to take one of these down. Aim for the turret. Even with a 76mm gun, you should be able to get through that armour and take him out. A lot of people tend to use the APCR because it's got the extra pen, but in actual fact you can pen this with standard AP, so long as you don't hit that mantlet. If you hit the mantlet, you might have a bit of problems, because remember it's only 99mm of pen, and well, you can see some places on the mantlet there it does kind of get a little higher than that, but if you can get it off the mantlet, say straight on in the face or slightly at an angle, you should be able to get through the sides of the turret. And if you can get the rear of it, you'll definitely go through the armour. You can see there it's fairly thin. So that's the armour problem. That's how you penetrate these things and take them down. Don't shoot in the sides unless you've got APCR, because you probably won't get through. Yes, you can get through APCR there and there, but you're much better off just aiming for the turret, and that's what most people do. So let's have a look at the modules and see where the modules actually are. Okay, well, in this one we can see that the commander is actually on the left side of the turret and the gunner is on the right side. The loader is actually sitting behind the commander on, well, basically behind the breech, and he's got an ammo rack, or a ready rack actually, that's a ready rack, in the turret. So aiming for the back of the turret around about here. If I bring that down, that's much easier. You see the back of the turret is the place to aim for. You'll either get either the commander or the gunner, or you'll set off the ammo rack or get the loader. The driver and the driver's assistant, there's the driver right in the centre with his viewport. Driver's assistant is right alongside him. He's supposed to be the radio operator actually, but you know, he was one that's supposed to operate the machine gun as well. You've got fuel tanks either side. In fact, the fuel tanks you can see right in the middle of the tank, where most people actually aim if they're going for centre mass. And there's a huge ammo rack right in the centre of the tank, right at the bottom. So, you know, trying to get that, you'd have to go through the fuel tanks before you could actually hit the ammo rack that's located there. There's the radio, actually. You can just see that there. That's why the radio operator's there. And so if you're aiming low and you manage to get it through the rollers, you might just hit the ammo rack down below, but you've got a much better chance of penetrating the turret and setting off the ammo rack up top. Over here we can see the engine and the transmission right at the back, and as I say, there's another fuel tank on the other side. So we've got fuel tanks up next to the driver, fuel tanks in the centre of the tank, no fuel tanks at the back. So if you want to start a fire, yeah, you're going to have to aim for the centre of the tank really to try and get a fire. If you want to knock out the engine, you just aim for the rear of the vehicle. And if you want to go for the ammo rack, go for the turret. That's the best place to go. And if you hit the turret, then you'll either kill one of the crew, or you might set the ammo rack, the ready rack off, and kill them that way. So I hope you find that useful. If you're going to take one of these down, aim for the turret. That's what you've got to do. Aim for the turret. And if you've got enough pen, then you can go for the sides to try and get a fire or disable the engine, but better off just aim for the turret. So I hope that was useful for you. And if you enjoyed that game, please give this video a like. Do subscribe to our channel. Leave a little comment down below because it feeds the algorithm. And thank you for watching.